Alien Romulus is a very frustrating film. It has so many interesting ideas and elements that are all handled by a director that I think is proving himself to be a master of horror, especially the gross-out, sexualized body horror that is synonymous with the Alien franchise. At times, Alien Romulus is unbelievably impressive. The film has incredibly striking visuals and a smart use of different types of lighting and sets of varying shapes and sizes to convey claustrophobia, dread, and hopelessness. The sound design of the film can be pretty wonderful, with so many great ambient noises and alarms in the background that really complement the visual storytelling on hand. There's some wonderful uses of silence in the film, especially in the opening shot, that really punch up the atmosphere. Alien Romulus sets up an interesting story among two siblings that leaves room to tell an emotional journey regarding family, prejudice, identity, and the origins of life, corporate greed and corruption, the things that make us human and that allow us to protect the ones we love from corrupted individuals and deadly forces of nature, a theme that I think is very prevalent in the series. The blend of practical effects and CGI can be so seamless, to the point where I had difficulty telling the difference for many of the scenes involving the monsters that are haunting the main crew of the film. The monster designs, as in previous Alien films, are an absolute highlight, and Romulus takes things one step further in a way that left me genuinely surprised and shocked. I would say that the CGI effects of the film are pretty flawless. That is, until you get to the horrendous CGI face monstrosity that is Ian Holm being resurrected to portray the primary antagonistic synthetic human of the film. And it was at this very moment that I felt my soul leaving my body in the theater. Yup, if you thought we were about to leave this shit behind with garbage like Rogue One, The Mandalorian, and superhero films, desecrating the history of talented actors, just to have a theater scream and applause when their favorite antagonistic robot from a 1979 horror film makes a comeback? Yeah, fucking think again. Yes, Alien Romulus uses a horrendous CGI Ian Holm to have him return as another evil synthetic for this film, starting right at the end of the first act. And I kid you not when I say the movie just kind of spiraled from here on out. Here, I started realizing what Alien Romulus is. I was expecting a bit of a soft reboot, a new entry in a series that harkens back to the feeling and tone of the original. Maybe repeating some little beats and moments here and there, but overall telling a different story that stands on its own. Something similar to Evil Dead Rise, which I didn't love, but I enjoyed enough and thought it was a good addition to the franchise that had just enough originality to stand on its own merits. That's not what Alien Romulus is. Alien Romulus is Alien. Again. Again. The further that Alien Romulus progresses, the clearer it is that the film isn't so much as interested in trying to tell a new story with new elements in this universe, but rather just trying to act as another spin on the original Alien. And I'll tell you right now, if you've seen the original Alien, you've already seen this movie. You already know what's going to happen. You already know who's going to survive. Spoilers, it's the main female girl. Did you guess that? I bet you didn't. And beyond that, you already know how she's going to survive. Take a second. Think for just a second. Our protagonist, Rain, her name starts with an R. Why does that sound familiar? Manages to make a harrowing escape from the final monster of the film and defeat it. How do you think she's going to? Alien Romulus is so preoccupied with trying to recreate the first Alien in a way that feels more egregious than most of the previous entries in the series, and results in such a frustrating film because any brand new elements and originality are actually incredible. The main character, Rain, has an adopted brother, Andy, who's a synthetic human, and Andy is the most interesting character in the story by a wide margin. Their dynamic is the strongest in the film, but arguably the only dynamic in the film. I'm not exaggerating when I tell you I cannot name any of the other characters. They're as disposable as you fear them to be. Almost no personality or characterization. The only exception is one of them has a prejudice towards Andy given his history with synthetic humans. Okay, that's something to work with, and adds a bit more to Andy's character as it highlights the prejudice he faces on a daily basis. I like that. There are inventive set pieces in the film that use the familiar creatures like facehuggers and xenomorphs, and adds a new spin on it regarding their traits. Quietly creeping through a dark room full of facehuggers, or blasting a swarm of xenomorphs in zero gravity, only to then carefully navigate through the floating acid blood. These are great moments that Romulus has sprinkled throughout, but the best is saved for last. After seeing our main character stripped down to her underwear for the final confrontation, just like the original film, because this movie is too afraid to be original for too long and has to constantly have references and moments that harken back to the better films, we are introduced to a horrifying and delightful new monster that can only be described as a mutant byproduct of xenomorph xenomorph in human DNA to create the Orphan of Kos from Bloodborne. The final 20 minutes of the movie are such a breath of fresh air because I saw the vision. Every great element from this movie coming together. An original idea with an original monster, all directed by Fede Alvarez, who is an incredibly talented director, utilizing every tool to his advantage. The use of sound and especially silence in the final confrontation is masterful. This is what Alien Romulus should have been the whole time. This is what I was looking for in a brand new Alien film. But this isn't what Alien Romulus was or even wanted to be. Alien Romulus was a disappointing retread of plot threads and moments that we've already seen from Alien, Aliens, and even the lesser films like Alien Resurrection and Prometheus. Although in my eyes, this was done wonderfully. Every great or original idea from Alien Romulus is hampered by this reverence for its legacy. The synthetic human Andy is the most interesting character by a country mile, yet he's sidelined in favor of Rain because, well, I guess if it's an Alien film, then the protagonist and survivor has to be a human woman. I've already seen that a half a dozen times over now, but I'd never seen an Alien film where a synthetic human is the protagonist. Alien Covenant was the closest to realizing that idea, and it's no surprise that Michael Fassbender as David and Walter is the most compelling part of that film. We could have had a further exploration of the idea of corporate greed and oppression, a theme that's commonly found in all of these films, just to have the same antagonist from the first film parading around with his awful, terrible CGI face. I cannot emphasize enough how bad it looks in the movie. It completely took me out of every scene he was in. I mean, the film even starts off with the main space outpost colony retrieving the xenomorph from the first film. That's right, this one right here? Yes, somehow, in the vast, overwhelming vacuum of space, was this specific monster recovered and implied to be the catalyst for the rest of the events of the film. Because it's not enough to bring back the antagonist synthetic human of the first film, but we also have to bring back the literal, actual first alien itself, because it's not an Alien movie without him, right? There's a moment in this film where the remaining survivors have to reach a science lab to retrieve a MacGuffin, and when they enter, the music swells up and the camera slowly pans a wide shot to reveal that this lab is designed to look exactly like it came from the ship from the first film. And I just rolled my eyes so hard I could see my own tiny brain. Is Alien, this franchise that roots back to body horror, claustrophobia, dread, isolation, exploitation, and oppressiveness, is this really the franchise to do some kind of nostalgia, please clap, theater cheer revival? Alien Romulus feels so misguided. I think the elements of the original that are so riveting can all be traced right back to the title, Alien. It's not about an extraterrestrial being from outer space. It's about the fear of something unknown, unfamiliar, that you can't explain or understand or run away from, or most horrifyingly, something that doesn't respond to reason or empathy or emotion. A deadly, unstoppable force of nature. That feeling isn't just shared with the xenomorph, the titular alien. It also applies to Ash and Mother. Unreasonable, cold, and unforgiving. It's why Alien works so well as a horror movie. The horror isn't just placed on the monster, it's the whole situation that Dallas, Kane, Ripley, and the rest of the crew find themselves in. The original Alien is so terrifying because for much of the movie, we don't know what we're dealing with. From the facehugger, to the chestburster, to the final perfect monster, it's a being that's unlike anything the crew has ever seen, and the audience. And also masterfully and patiently built up with excellent tension that's mostly missing in Romulus. The crew can't hope to understand how this creature functions, and part of the strength in that is that we rarely see the xenomorph at all. One of the only clear full shots of it is at the very end of the movie. At this point, the unfortunate truth is, the alien from Alien isn't scary anymore. We know exactly how it works, and how it behaves thanks to further development in the sequels. We know where the eggs come from, and how the facehugger impregnates humans with the parasite. That knowledge was necessary for development of the mythos in the sequels, but now, the xenomorph isn't alien anymore. It's familiar. It's predictable, like other horror movie monsters and villains. But where those monsters and villains have personalities and character to help them shine through countless sequels, the xenomorph doesn't have that luxury. So what do? Something new. The new monster at the end of this film, this Lovecraftian xenomorph baby hybrid that resembles a Bloodborne boss, that's what you do. The concept of something foreign, terrifying, unexplainable, that's where the true horror lies in this franchise. Not with reusing the same monsters and set pieces and character archetypes over and over again, but recreating those original concepts and emotions in brand new ways. I'm convinced you could have a faithful entry in the Alien franchise without even so much as featuring an alien. Prometheus is a mess, and needed some extra work, don't get me wrong. wrong, but I respect it more and more as time goes on. It also acts like a partial remake of the original Alien, with the same basic setup of landing on an alien planet and then all hell breaks loose, but it has enough original ideas to at least keep it interesting, as well as a big theme of the movie that's actually engaging. The most interesting part of Prometheus is the journey of these characters to discover how humans came to be, how life was created, and what these creators think of their work. Alien Romulus doesn't have anything extra going on. In fact, I couldn't even tell you why the movie is called Romulus. I mean, the main outpost they're on is divided into two segments, Romulus and Remus. The main characters are siblings, but beyond that, there's no real allusion or connection to the story of Romulus and Remus. There's no greater theme or message or really anything to think about once the movie ends. In fact, I think the name Romulus is actually incredibly fitting as an alternate title for Alien Covenant, given the relationship between David and Walter in that film. The most interesting ideas surrounding this film all revolve around Andy, but it feels so surface level by the end of it. I would have loved to see his character explored even further, his struggle regarding his familial connection to Rain versus his programming and predictable nature. Could there be more to synthetic humans than their programming? Is a synthetic human like Andy more human than something like Ash because Andy has an emotional connection that Ash can never understand? Could Andy have gone as far as to take an innocent human's life to save Rain? I can't help but wonder about a more interesting story than what we're given. The elements are all there. Fede Alvarez has an impeccable eye for horror. The two main characters have a good hook to keep me interested, and every original moment and monster in Romulus is delightful. But this desperate attempt at honoring the legacy of the franchise weighs down Romulus from what could have been one of the greatest entries in this franchise. As it stands, unfortunately, I don't think I'll remember very much of this movie at all. I'm already struggling to think of scenes that aren't greatly overshadowed by more original work from the previous films in this series, and yet I am interested if this gets a sequel. I want Fede Alvarez to have another chance at this universe, but to try something new and unexpected. You can't bring back true horror into this franchise without being bold. I don't want Alien. Not again. I want something alien.